Hey guys, welcome. This is Brad Krantz. Thanks for joining me today on my Monday Morning Leadership, coming to you here from Summers, Montana. Hey, I'm jumping back into Gary Vaynerchuk's book, 12 and a half. We're talking about leveraging the emotional ingredients necessary for business success. And this definitely ties into leadership. That's why I'm talking about it. And first off, let's give a definition here. I'm going to do a quick screen share with his background so we kind of tie in the message here. But accountability is the factor condition of being accountable and responsible, right? Those two are tied together, accountability and responsibility. And he says people love to deflect blame from themselves onto other people, right? It's as humans, we do that all the time. It's a misconception that avoiding accountability will lead to happiness, when he says he really believes the reverse is true. Things like, it's my boss's fault that I'm not getting paid enough, right? Sally messed up on my project, that's on Rick, for not communicating correctly, or, the market collapsed the day before our business launch, or if the client didn't make these demands. We see it all the time, guys, in politics. One of my biggest pet peeves is blaming the other candidate, the other party. We see it all the time now. Don't take responsibility, don't be accountable, but it's somebody else's fault, instead of saying, hey, the buck stops with me, right? Whereas leaders, we lead by example. We need to be accountable. We need to have integrity. That's what we're talking about. But he goes so far, I saw it this week, to say that he thinks it's one of the biggest problems in the U.S. and world. And I would say it's probably certainly one of the biggest secular problems. As a Christian, I know what the root of that is. It's our sinful nature, but it's certainly a big secular problem, is lack of accountability. So he says, when you blame others, and I'm going to bring his background up here. When you blame others, right, you're admitting to yourself that you're no longer in control. And that's the biggest issue, guys. You're giving leverage to the persons that you're pointing the finger at, and you become a victim of the situation you're in. I posted this last week, are you a victim or a victor? I hope you are a victor, right? But, instead of pointing your finger, consider that when you do that, you got three fingers pointing back at you, right? So you've got to accept responsibility. He sees accountability as being the brakes. It stops the momentum of pain that comes from blaming others. And I've got to agree with that, that no matter what the challenge, he says, that he's facing, that you're facing, that I'm facing, he goes, I have to accept that in some way I made a decision that put me in that situation. That takes a lot of guts to take that on. But guys, so often it's true. We put ourselves in situations, we say, well, our communication sucks or whatever. Well, if there's two people communicating, you're at least 50% of that. I'm 50%. So you can't say it's all on you. We have to take responsibility. He says, if I created the issue, I have the power to fix it. And that's where accountability comes in. If you don't, then you have no power. Again, you are a victim, not a victor. So he says accountability is the most challenging ingredient for most people. And I have to agree, because their self-esteem is predicated on the outcomes of their actions. Okay, so it's hard to take blame when you're not kind to yourself, or you're not optimistic about the future. And taking it leaves you completely vulnerable to other people's adjustments. So people fear others' opinions, don't we? I'm human. I do. I'm sure you do too. So we develop ego defense mechanisms against our own mistakes. And that's a form of avoidance, he says, disguised as a solution. Okay, so I'm going to jump out of this really quick and kind of wrap up here. But he says people that have a high emotional IQ, and that's kind of what this whole segment is on soft skills, is it's obvious that you're passing the blame, right? I get it. When I see politicians, I almost want to laugh, pull my hair out, because it's so obvious you're just passing blame. You are not being accountable. You're not being a leader. So unfortunately, many people would rather live their lives tricking other emotionally weak players. And that's kind of what we're playing on. Politicians, I'll say number one, is people that are emotionally weak. They'd rather win with those who are ego-driven and fear-based, right, guys? And again, that's not a way to be a victor. That's a way to be a victim, okay? But he says he has empathy for those who avoid accountability, because for a long time, he also avoided the kind of candor and the one-on-one confrontation, right? It's not maybe my strong point, but being able to have that kind candor is a positive. And he says he's continuing to learn that leaders need to mix kind candor with accountability. And I have to agree with that 100%. And he says, and I agree, as I get older, I realize how much happiness comes from being in control. Right, guys, financial control is just one aspect of being in control. But, when you genuinely feel you're in control, you don't fear the outcome, right? If you have savings, you can feel safe because you can take care of yourself. If you're still working towards that security, you can still feel safe in the fact that you can always get another job, right, guys? Your job my job or jobs isn't the only job or jobs out there, right? There's always more opportunities. The world is abundant. That's the optimism he's sharing. And you're in the driver's seat. He says much of the day-to-day angst that we face comes from a feeling of helplessness, and accountability can potentially reverse that. So guys, thanks for joining me here today. I'd love to hear how important do you think accountability is? How are you practicing accountability? How are you stopping blaming others and working to be a victor instead of a victim? Guys, Brad Krantz signing off today. Thanks so much for joining me. Hope you got something out of today. And as always, have an awesome Monday. Bye-bye.